What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Three Geeks conversation. I'm joined by Destiny and Angel, and today we are welcoming Jeremy Palko to the show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm awake. Thank you for having me.
Well, my favorite question to ask at the top of all of this is, what made you want to get into acting?
There's probably a deep answer to that, but I just remember at a very young age really just loving movies, just straight up Spielberg, like anything like that. Like this is Jonesy, my dog, named after Indiana Jones. Yeah, I remember at one point I wanted to be an archaeologist simply because of Indiana Jones, and I took one archaeology class in college and it was fucking horrible. So I was like, I'm gonna try acting because deep down I always wanted to, and I really kind of, gravitated towards it, and through circumstances, out of my control, 2 knee surgeries, kind of, I gave up the dream of being an athlete of any kind after that second knee surgery, and found my way into the arts. That's like the compressed answer, so sorry.
Now, a compressed answer is just as good as the long answer.
Yeah, absolutely. You also do art, and I don't know if everybody knows that, but Jeremy's an incredible artist. What got you started with that?
Oh my God, we're going 2 for 2 with like the deep questions
the
here.
Deep questions right out the gate.
It's early, but I'll spill it. I've never thought about art a day in my life. Never picked up a paintbrush. Never, thought about art. Never looked at arts. Never studied art. And then one day in COVID, out of everybody trying to do something with their lives, as things got really different really quickly. I was very bored one day, and how truthful can we be on this show? Is this like,
go for it, as truthful as you want?
All right, like I hadn't really smoked weed before, but I got so fucking high and I just started painting, and it was like my whole world changed. And I mean, not to toot my horn or anything, but like fast forward 5 years, and I was actually doing some counting this week, and I probably painted close to 8,000 paintings. And
Wow.
It's just like, it blows my mind saying it, simply because that has helped me along, not only like financially to like stay alive in this world, and not have to go after anything other than, the arts, I guess. Still got the bug for acting, even though it's kind of died down a little bit right now. But yeah, art just kind of saved my mind and my soul, honestly. So I get up, like every day. Like I was up this morning at 4 a.m. and I started painting. So that is like, yeah, it's changed my life, honestly.
Love that.
I've
Now,
got
I
a
know
whole
IMDb
wall at work.
And that was a short answer too. I apologize for that. I could talk all day. Yeah, Angel, thank you. And I did use that Angel you gave me. Like, I painted the back of it and I pressed it up against the paint, thinking I could make something out of it, and it just did not work. So I kind of just.
I knew that was the plan when I left it. So I was like, I went back and I'm like, where's my wooden angel from the convention?
Yeah, and I made an attempt at it, and it was just not the way it should have gone. So
it wasn't the stencil you thought.
No, it wasn't. Sorry.
It's okay. I'll keep buying other stuff for my wall at work. It's looking amazing with all my plants.
And since I got the mic here, like I know it's New Year's, but yeah, I really wanted to thank people this year because, without people buying my work, like, he had a vet appointment, and I realized that like it's my artwork that, allows him to get his shots and things like that. So yeah, it's been, yeah.
Got to take care of the pups.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know IMDb can be a little wrong, but what was it like landing Sydney White? It looks like that might have been your first role.
Yeah, it was. Like that was, oh my God, that was so much fun. Like I remember living in Orlando, and I'd just gotten there, and there's a lot of kind of, at that time, commercials and a lot of extra work, and I immediately just wanted to get on a movie set. Like, again, that bug had always been in me to be performing. And I just come from Disney, where I was working on a cruise ship for 2 years, performing. And so I made my way onto the first set I could. And I remember there was like a group of like 100 guys, and this guy, the PA came in and said, we need a frat guy. And I I jumped up and down like I was on The Price is Right. Like I wanted to somehow be in front of that camera. And I remember when they put me in place, it was like legit right in front of the camera. And, you know, they did the scene. It was a long day of just this fraternity scene or dance. And like Amanda Bynes had to come down the stairs and rip off her dress and literally just like bump against me and keep going. And we did that like 50 times. And I just kept thinking, like, am I in the movie? Is this going to like happen? And then met a bunch of cool people in Orlando, and we all kind of went to like the, you know, the movie, the opening, and we were all just, you know, finding all of our friends, and it was really kind of fun. And yeah, at one point, like I saw myself on screen, and I was like, yeah, I'm in a movie.
That's so great. What are some fun set stories you can give us from Never Back Down?
Okay. Again, one of my first speaking role. Yeah, that was my first role. And you know, when you go from being an extra on a film set to somebody who was cast as a speaking part, I found out there was like a huge difference. They tend to treat you a lot better and kind of roll out the red carpet, which was very new and intriguing. And I remember I got that particular role by, you know, convincing casting that I knew what I knew about football. And I remember going into the audition, and it was really weird because I was playing a running back, and the dialogue didn't make sense. It was like I was yelling out linebacker calls as a running back. And I kind of stopped the audition, which was probably silly, but looking back probably helped me. And I said, excuse me, is this a running back speaking? And I kind of just naively said, this is not what he would say. And so they were like, oh, well, what would he say? And I started calling out like running back stuff, you know, like watch out for the linebacker, watch out, whatever. So fast forward, I get a call saying they want to see you go play football. And so I went out and I caught passes, and, you know, I was running, and we'd only run a few scenes, but eventually I got to work with the stunt team. And again, this is all like my first movie, so I was so into it. And Jaimin Hansu was there, and got Amber Heard was on set. I remember I didn't talk to her, but the lead actor, Sean Ferris, was really nice. And I remember getting beat up for 3 days and 3 nights of like getting tackled on this high school football field. And at the end of the scene, I get punched and I hit the ground, and they had like probably over 100 students come in and pretend fight. But after 3 nights of shooting, we found out that all these were kids from rival high schools who legit hated each other. So on the last day of filming, I am rolling around, you know, in the face, and these kids are wanting to kill each other. And my friend Jim Coleman, who was the referee in the film, who was cast, he legit was just there to protect me. He was standing over me, and if you see in the scene, he's pushing off these kids because, you know, you tell a bunch of riled up high schoolers, hey, pretend, beat the crap out of each other and go. And it was wild. It was a lot of fun. But it was so much fun. And I went to the movies, and I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm in this movie. And she watched the whole movie, and at the end, she was like, where were you? Because I wasn't football helmet for the entirety of the first scene. But yeah, that's still, it was actually on like Tubi or something in the cult classics section. So that felt cool and old at the same time. But yeah. Oh, I loved it. Oh, and I was in the sequel.
Nice.
Yeah, as a different character, which is kind of weird, but it was fun.
It works if you had a football helmet on the first time.
Right?
Got to show your face.
Bigger role in the sequel?
Yeah, I played like it was a different story, different fighters. It was directed by Michael Jai White, which was awesome. And I played the roommate Kurt, and just you know, couple scenes, but man, I had to do a lot of driving for that, like 13 hours to New Orleans for the audition, back home to do Bill and Ted's at Universal Studios, drove back 13 hours when I got cast, drove back 13 hours, did shows, drove back 13 hours for one more shoot, and yeah, loved every second of it.
What'd you do for Bill and Ted?
Oh man, Universal Studios, they had Halloween Horror Nights. They had a good running show called the Bill and Ted Show. Man, so many wonderful people in that show. But it was essentially like a live stage show, like a live Family Guy kind of show every year. Bill and Ted, go through pop culture of the years, famous characters, whatever. And it's just pyrotechnics, dancing, whatever. But every year, for probably the better part of a decade, I got cast. I felt very lucky, and it felt like summer camp and a live show at the same time. And some of my best friends still there. But yeah, essentially, I just played characters like, oh my god, everything from, oh my god, I can't even begin to describe to you, over hundreds of characters. But yeah.
Walking Dead is probably a pretty big role. What was that experience like?
Andy.
Yeah, that was, still to this day, one of the coolest experiences. The fact that I still get to talk about it, and like no other show or can do that. And, I remember working at a bar, which I was terrible at. I worked there for maybe 6 months. And thankfully, the owner of the bar was a huge fan of the show, and he knew that I was an actor. And I told him I'd auditioned for. And this was probably, after 6 years of auditioning for that show, I got the call one day that I was cast as Andy. I didn't know anything about it, but I remember like running out of the bar and just kind of having a moment with my agent, and I got really excited. And then like immediate terror, because I was like, oh shit, now it's real. Now I got to go do it. And, I had like 4 days to get ready and drove up to Georgia. And yeah, it was just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And thankfully all the, the scenes we shot were essentially out in the middle of nowhere in a show like that. It's so, it was really easy to kind of just get into it. But I should say that before I got the part, I had never seen the show. Obviously I'd heard of it. I knew most of it, but I went and sat for like that whole weekend, and I binged probably 4.5 seasons. And then going from that to actually walking on the set was really cool. And kind of, I remember my character gets a cast put on. So they felt that was the first thing I should do, is get fitted for a cast. And so they put it on my dominant hand, my right hand, really tightly. I didn't know what to say, but I was just, I'm just thankful to be there. So next thing I know, they're, drive me around like their Raleigh studio, and it was just, this massive set, and they were shooting. And so I got to walk on the set and watch them film, and they introduced me to everybody, and I'm like trying to shake hands, and they all think I have a broken hand. So nobody was really shaking my hand. So half explain, I'm like, no, I like, this is just a fitting. And when they took it off, like 4 hours later, my hand was black and blue. And the guy, I forgot his name, but was like, was that too tight? And I was like, a little bit. And he's like, are you left-handed? I said, no, I'm right-handed. He's like, why didn't you just tell us? Like we would have taken it off, loosened it, put it on your other hand. And I was like, I just thought that was the way it went. But no, everybody was friendly. And yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Then you also have really cool shows you got to be on, like Vampire Diaries, Burn Notice, Bloodline, I think it is.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's Bloodline or Bloodlines.
Bloodline, yeah.
No S.
There's other shows with a similar name, but I mean,
Yeah.
every one of those shows felt like just an amazing. Felt like you won the lottery. Honestly, every time your agent calls you and she has that kind of tone, like, "Hey," I'm like, "What? Like what?" And especially after an audition. So, but I mean, I could probably tell you a story for each and every one of those. Burn Notice, for instance, I remember going to that audition, and I drove like 5 hours to Miami, and I had read for one part, and I had just completely botched it. I remember I probably the one and only time I remember just stopping the audition and asking if I could start over, which is like, it's like the death of an audition, basically. And for some reason, I drove 5 hours home, and I remember getting a call 2 days later, and they cast me in a different part, which was originally set to be for like a 70-year-old, like the captain of a ship of some sort. And I guess they were thinking Titanic, and the Coast Guard was like, they're not that old. And so, yeah, lucky enough, I got to go shoot out in the open water with like the real Coast Guard, and people got seasick and I didn't. So, got to shoot some live rounds off the side of the ship, or dummy rounds, excuse me. And that was, another day at sea.
Another adventure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I was looking up, and I seen that you were voiced in Alvin and the Chipmunks. Do you like doing voiceovers versus actual acting, or did I read wrong?
I think you read wrong. Voiceover
Okay.
for Alvin and the Chipmunks.
You
No,
said you were a cruise guy,
I was a cruise guy, but
so I didn't.
like I was an extra in the film, but this was like a very, very unique situation. Like we actually shot on a cruise ship for 7 days. And so they cast like 25 actors, and these 25 actors would be placed all over the ship in different areas. So like one day I was a bartender, next day I'm on, holiday with my wife, and the next day I have like a different wife, and it was just like today you're going to be sitting in this pool for 6 hours while we shoot this corner of the ship. And Alvin and the Chipmunks 3, like it was so much fun. So I got to travel around with a bunch of people, and just it was basically a paid vacation. We worked maybe like 4 or 5 hours a day, but we got to do everything the guests did. We went to the shows, we had dinners. It was so much fun. And at the end we had a nice little kind of end of the shoot party where all the actors were all there. Was like, Jason Lee was there, and David Cross, and God, the guy from The Office, his name's Andy something. He was really, really nice. But I remember we all went to the movies afterwards, like months later, to go see it, all 25 to 30 of us. And the week of shooting we did, 5 to 8 hours a day, was the first 90 seconds of the movie.
And that was it?
And the rest of the movie, they're on this island, shooting in Canada. And it was fun. Like we're all pointing out where we were, and yeah.
Hey,
But
the
no,
vacation was worth it for 90
Yeah.
seconds, right?
Right.
so I think at that time, especially, as an actor, you just want to get credits on your IMDb. So it's like, you know what, I worked on a real movie, get that credit, whatever you can get. So it might say voice. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a very long time.
She may have seen the voice from, you did voice for Madden.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did.
What was that experience
That was
like?
fun. I got to do like the whole mocap, like the motion capture suit, like the latex or the skinny stuff with the foam balls all over you. And I got to play football, and yeah, I got to yell out football calls and everything. And it was kind of a big project in Orlando. And I remember I got to do the table read for the actual game. It was like a football game, but you could like, start in high school, go through college, go to the pros. I don't know. It was like reminded me of like a build your own adventure kind of game. But no, I remember going to the table read, and it was like the biggest actors in Orlando, like all the ones you hear about, and I was at the table with, my acting coach, Russ Blackwell, was there, and Carlos Navarro was there, was also in The Walking Dead. I mean, I just remember seeing all these guys and girls that like I'm like had a lot of respect for. So I was really nervous about that. But essentially that's all it turned out to be. It was just a table read. And then they used a bunch of us for like voices and stuff. But we kind of thought that project was going to take off, and they wound up casting a bunch of people out of LA. Them's the breaks in this biz. So yeah, we essentially, I think, set up the project for it to be made elsewhere. But
What was the mocap suit like? Like, how long did you have to have that on?
I remember the mocap suit wasn't bad. It's just like a suit you put on, and it feels nice. It's like freeing and everything, but it's the dots and everything they have to put on your face. That took a while. But again, we did this at EA Sports, and their facility was so cool. I remember sitting in one of the rooms, and they had a table, where they had their morning meetings, and inside the table was a giant ball pit. And so
That'd be so fun.
during the hours of makeup, we would just go, jump in the ball pit.
You
Try
were
again.
also in Tyler Perry's Ruthless, weren't you?
I was. That was fun.
Yeah.
Man, I honestly, I love doing podcasts. I just never plan anything, but man, I got some stories with that one. So
I imagine. Are there any you can actually tell us on here?
that was a lot of fun. Because I remember, unfortunately, I submitted for the show, I booked the show, and I was actually at a funeral when I got the call when I was leaving that I had just booked, 26 episodes. So I was like, I remember being horribly distraught, but like, oh my God, I just got a year's worth of work. That's what I thought in my head. I had, 26 episodes. That's what they told me. And then I got cast and I went to Tyler Perry Studios. Now this was during COVID. So there was so many regulations. I had to get like the nose swab twice a day. Then I found out that I would have to live on set, which was a lot of fun. But I found out these episodes were going to be shot in about 5 days. So that was a lot for me. I remember getting the script, which was like 150 plus pages. And, I didn't go to Juilliard. So I got really, really terrified because, I had very limited time to prepare. I remember just going, to the gym and just sitting on a treadmill. And for 6 hours, I would just read the script. I would listen to the script. And when you got to set, I remember, again, I was living there for 2 weeks and it was a lot of fun. I had this giant mansion basically to myself, but it was ultimately like an acting boot camp. It was, there wasn't a whole lot of time to, enjoy it. Like we were always just rehearsing. Because when Tyler Perry shoots, it is like a freight train and you just got to jump on and hold on. And, most shows would, normally shoot anywhere between 4 to 10 pages a day. We were shooting 20 to 40. I mean, it was just fast. But again, during COVID, so it was a lot of fun to just have work and experience all that. But oh my God, I don't know if I even want to tell this story, but
He's going to.
Okay, so this was my first experience with a sex scene. All right, so I was, my partner Ashley in the scene. We had meetings with an intimacy coordinator on set, and that's just essentially to make sure that all, everyone's comfortable with what's about to happen. And okay, I'll set up the scene for you. So I'm a police officer, and she is basically using me at the office to break in. So the scene is, she poisons my food and, I'm going to pass out eventually, but not before she seduces me. So the scene called for full frontal nudity on my part, which I was like, sure, I'm an actor. Why not? But I remember getting a little nervous before the scene. And again, I'm a police officer in the scene. So we're talking gun, badge, belt, everything. And so on action, she is supposed to essentially get me down to nothing. And then I pass out and her friends come in and they raid the place. And on action, we were trying to get from A to Z, but essentially we couldn't get the gun off. The badge was fumbling around. The belt was ginormous. The gun fell off. And this sexy, seductive scene turned into 40 people laughing their asses off through the door. And I remember thinking, oh shit, I completely screwed that up. And we came out and the pants hadn't even come off, like I'm just passed, because eventually I had to pass out. I had about 10 seconds to pass out. And, the scene ended and I'm sitting there going, oh God, we're gonna have to do that again. And when I came out, Tyler Perry was laughing his ass off. And I remember thinking, okay, I dodged a bullet. Didn't have to get, naked. And I hear the script supervisor come over and say, he's supposed to end up nude. And I'm thinking, oh God, just shut up. And, there was like a calm moment and a panic. And Tyler Perry's like, nah, we got it, moving on. And I was like, oh, it turned out to be just hilarious. And yeah, we'll never forget that one.
That's great.
A lot of actors say that like soap operas prepare them. It sounds like you kind of got that experience with Ruthless.
Yeah, I mean that was a lot of challenging, days. I remember just getting there thinking, I remember getting there one day and I had like a pretty extensive scene, and like one of the guys in the scene didn't even know he had a scene that day, so it was a challenge, but for thinking, you know what, I felt really prepared, so I was really proud of myself in that. But yeah, that was that was a good time to have work when not a lot of people were finding work. So yeah, and he was just so much fun to work with. I really like Tyler Perry.
So what's next for you?
I mean, right now I paint a lot because I have a couple art shows coming up. I've got a market next weekend, the week after that. like I said, art's really just taken over my world and has allowed me to continue to pursue acting. But right now, it's just a matter of, staying patient is what the managers and agents keep saying, and to stay productive during your downtime is what they always say. So I feel like I'm doing that, just painting 100 miles an hour. But because it's all original artwork, I do have a couple areas in Atlanta now where I tend to update my work every month, and I've got to do that. So staying busy and trying to be grateful that there's still opportunities coming out there.
Where can everybody find your art?
Oh man, Art by Palko is just kind of what I've gone with. So Instagram, Facebook, Threads. I don't do Twitter. I'm getting into the old TikToks. I make videos of like my artwork. I'm trying here, but that's been creating some doorways, and just kind of following that right now. So
Are you going to be
Awesome.
back at the camp in May?
I sure hope so. I love those guys. Like, that is one of the events I really look forward to. And since honestly, like, I kind of look at this kind of art journey is like it started in that area, like all the Walking Dead connections and friends and fans really are, I've been doing this kind of a while now, and I've noticed with a lot of artists, there's so many talented artists out there, but for them to sell a painting, this is what they live for. But to have kind of a nice spark, I guess, with the fans really helped me out. And when I go to the camp, I just try to get rid of the art so quickly. And it's really one of my favorite events. So I hope they have me back. I don't know if we'll do the painting class. I haven't heard anything yet. So
Well, they have the cruise this year too, so that should be interesting.
yeah, man, sign me up. Put me in a rubber raft, and I'll just kind of like hang on at the back of the ship. So.
Yeah, you sit in the pool for 3 hours, 6 hours while they shoot
You know what?
corner.
I had practice, so I could do it. Yeah.
No, I think it'll be fun.
Like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll put the links for all Jeremy stuff down below, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
See ya.
Thank you.